Well, what a week in horse racing. Can I just highlight how fickle horse racing fans are?
Sure.
So, of the 10 winners at Caulfield yesterday, 8 of the 10 were in the top 3 when they hit the 400 metres. I didn't hear a word of leader bias. So, in comparison, there was 7 of the 10 winners were in the top 3 entering the 400. That's without Antino, who...
let's just not count that race.
So, basically 6. I'd say 6 of the 10. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're interesting, aren't they, horse racing fans? I got in contact with one last night. 'Cause, to be honest, he had a case to answer. I texted him and I said, "Hey, victim, do you want to explain yourself for today's performance?" And he hasn't responded to me yet, but he would appreciate probably being called out on the podcast, I'd say. So we're just going to go race by race for the victim, Caulfield yesterday, because this guy, honestly, I don't know where he gets his tips from. Started off with a nice 4th, race 1, Catogio. 4th, yeah, that's there or thereabouts. Yeah, okay. Next race, Reserve Bank, 5th. That's not 4th or 3rd or 2nd or 1st. Race 3, Scary, came 5th, 6 horse field.
Yeah.
Race 4, Harry Curry. Oh, that's a nice 5th. Race 5. There's 10 races of this drops, by the way. Daughter of Shoals, Isthmus. Nice 4th.
Of 9.
Of 9. Race 6. Oh, GG's Miss Truth ran 3rd. That's nice. Ran into the placings. That's a favourite.
Yeah. I think I saw $2.50 for her at one stage.
The market liked it. So did the victim.
Smoked her.
Race 7. Ray Magnerio was 2nd. If you watch the replay of that race, he probably should have won. But that doesn't matter because the victim was on and it didn't.
Ray had 6 kilos off Estriella.
He did.
He smoked the clock, though.
He did.
But he didn't win, Ray.
He didn't, Ray. He didn't, Ray. Not at all. Race 8. Skybird. Best of the day for the victim. Nice 7th.
Beaten 4 lengths.
Yep. The Caulfield Cup. The victim had Zardozi. I was keen on Zardozi as well. She ran 4th. Lost by 8 lengths. Race 10, just to, icing on the cake. Pinstriped. The victim ran 3rd. That is... I'd probably say it's a career worst performance.
Career worst?
And do you know what just makes it even worse? The fact that it's on such a big day.
Yeah.
All eyeballs on.
That's okay. Hey,
so look, the victim's yet to answer. Okay, so I think what the victims should do, not say anything, cop it on the chin, do better next week.
Yeah.
Has success on Cox Plate Day in the past.
A swift and terrifying return to form.
A swift and terrifying return to form. That's what we want from the victim.
To be honest, mate, like the source, I think, on such a big day, maybe a pass buck, maybe. Like when his pick and subsequently mine gets scratched on from the Everest, and we will cover that.
Oh no,
furious.
No.
But let's get kicked off with the Caulfield Cup. This raced really well on racing.com figures. Like really well. 14.5 lengths above benchmark for track distant conditions. So I think it was a genuine staying contest. Deny Knowledge went pretty quick out front. And then Duke De Sessa at the 800 was like, see you later, Dale. But Deny Knowledge hung on for 5th. I think it kind of found a lot of those horses out behind them. And I think, honestly, the first 4 past the post were arguably the best horses in the race for the contest.
Absolutely. The only one who wasn't in the top 4 who I had in my top 4 was Warmonger.
Yeah. Oh,
I think it's just come a bit too soon for him, maybe.
Well, when he burst the gates before the races even started.
Doesn't help.
He was prancing around, and what did he finish? Like 7th or
7th
8th?
or 8th, yeah. Yeah,
Like,
8th.
I think he's run pretty well, all things considered.
Absolutely. But Duke De Sessa, just lightly weighted,
Best form.
best form, and flew under the radar a little bit. Ran nicely in the Turnbull.
Yeah, only beaten 2 lengths, and I was keen on him. I had a saver on him on the day, just with how wet the track went up. I thought it would have been a drying soft 6, not a drying heavy 8. So I was really keen on him. I thought the gelding operation has clearly worked for him. So I had a saver bet on him, but my main bet in the race was definitely on Zardozi, who has it potentially come a little bit too soon for her?
I think so. The old 4-year-old mare theory
Yeah.
stands up again, I think. But look, the drifters were keen. Nearly 30% of drifters were on Zardozi, with the next most backed was Buckaroo, so fair enough. Then they were sort of specking for Land Legend. If we go to Duke De Sessa, only 4 drifters. So, no, the Sydney Source, mate. Sydney Source had him. Yeah. So well done to those drifters. Double points, 6 points. Look, there was a lot of drifters who were high up in the table, and full results will come out this week. Who didn't score a point?
Oh, hello.
So there's going to be a bit of a changing of the guard, I think, potentially. Not right at the tippy top, maybe, but we'll more details to come. But yeah, so only 4 people found the winner. But if you're finding Buckaroo and Zardozi and they're running top 4 and Land Legend, like we're there or thereabouts as a community.
Between us, like, you could arguably say that we do these on YouTube separate to the podcast. We do these like little snippet previews of all the Group 1s, and it's fair to say that our Caulfield Cup one kind of went viral. And between us, we had the top 4 in the race. So I chucked Duke into 4th.
Dookie.
And you had Buckaroo, who I left out. So how's this for some stats from the race? The sectional star, I sound like I belong on racing.com, was Buckaroo. How's this? He ran the meeting fastest last 1,400, 1,600 and 2,000 metres. Now, there was 2 2,000-metre races for the 3-year-olds. He would have beaten them in a 2,400-metre race. That's how farcical those races were run. 2 years in a row, especially for the Colts and Geldings. I will get to that. But he would have lapped both of those group of 3-year-olds. And then there was 4 1,400-metre races on the day, and he would have beaten them home too. So he has run out of his skin. I think the big dogs, if they back him up into a Melbourne Cup, I reckon this is the horse they're going to back based on the data.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd like to probably dissect the. Oh, I'm not going to do it. Who am I kidding? Like dissect the 1,400-metre races and see how they all run. Because if you're saying that most horses who are in the top 3 ended up winning on the day, it's like, well, most of them ran at a pretty fair pace.
I think a lot of that data or the consequence of the winners, I think a lot of it would have been track conditions. Heavy tracks and soft rain affected ground does make it more difficult to run on, I feel. And I think it's the tempo, more importantly, at what they'll run. Whereas the Caulfield Cup
was truly run.
So, but yeah, I think there's a sneaky good Melbourne Cup run in here. If you watch the replay again, Land Legend does not settle until Zach Purton gets him out at about the 800-metre mark. He's throwing his head around the entire time, hated being inside horses, hated probably looking at the rails like, I want to go through you, bruh. But I think if this horse in a Melbourne Cup draws barrier 24, I reckon that's even better than drawing barrier 1 for him. I could see him I reckon he'll get 2 laps. Like, I reckon he'll keep running for you all day. And I think he's the one heading towards a Melbourne Cup. If he draws outside of horses instead of being inside, I could really see him running really nicely in a Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing for him, though. He just needs to learn how to settle. But no, Duke De Sessa was a worthy winner, very lightly weighted. But in a compressed weights race, it ultimately didn't really matter. Like, you got Buckaroo, who was nearly top weight, running 54.5 kilos. And where'd the toppy run? Calipore, second last. And Berkshire Breeze ran last by 28 lengths.
So that horse, right? If you look at its SP profile, one of the best in the race. Now, albeit it's coming from like benchmark 78s and whatever, sure. But I don't get it for that type of galloper, you know? Just one of those ones that the market's always with. I just don't understand.
Yeah, no, there's some of them are just, for whatever reason, just every time they go around. Don't get it.
Don't get it. Elias, first thought, best thought I would have thought. If you're a minority share in that horse, right? And you were like, yes, this horse is going towards a Metrop. I reckon he's a fantastic winning chance in that race. He's potentially, from what we've seen, goes a couple lengths more on his Sydney leg. And then they changed the plan mid-prep towards this race, and he finishes 7th, beaten 10 lengths. Are you impressed? I'm not.
No, well, you never know. Like, if he went to the Metro, would he have won? Who knows? He could have, the 2,400 metres could have beat him again. But
he clearly runs top 3 in that race, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But, there was some judges who really liked him for this race. Neither of us did, but there were some judges who liked him. But the proof's in the pudding, so you're right. If I was an owner, I'd be like, I'd rather run top 3 in a different group one. But anyway, that's just me personally.
The Japanese horse looked like he needed 5,000 metres. I think the ground might have...
Didn't like that deck.
No.
Warp speed.
Because he was last, but as soon as they started making their runs, it took him like a solid furlong to actually start moving. He got left behind by about 2 lengths really fast. So I think Melbourne Cup on a Flemington will probably suit him a bit better as well. And then on a drier track, he will definitely improve. He'll run top 10.
Yeah. I think other 2 horses to keep an eye out for future staying races, aside from the obvious warmonger, like, is Valiant King. He's a 5-year-old Northern Hemisphere gelding. He looks like he needs further, and he might just be a prep away. Like, maybe he could be a Sydney Cup type horse, Valiant King. So, yeah, I think they're the 2 that relatively lightly raced, pretty young horses who I think will be sort of going around in these type of races for another 12 months at least, you'd think.
Well, Kyprios overnight.
He went again, did he?
Yep. And just so easy. And I think Vauban was 3rd or 4th behind him. And I think that horse, last time I checked, probably changed now, but he was like $15 in Melbourne Cup markets. And it's like...
if Vauban's that price in a Melbourne Cup, like...
Yeah.
That's when you can play.
Yeah.
Because last year he was what, like $4?
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be tough. So, yeah, let's get to these 2,000 metre races. So the Caulfield Classic, and is it the Ethereal, maybe, for the 3-year-old fillies as well?
Mm-hmm.
So the fillies would have beaten the boys by 12 lengths on raw times. 12 of them. And based on racing.com figures, the girls were still 6 lengths below standard. So you just pen these races at the lead-up runs towards an Oaks and a Derby.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw the exact same thing happen last year in the Caulfield Classic in particular. That's when Riff Rocket got rolled about $1.40.
Yep.
Actually, I reckon he might have been $1.15.
Yeah, what was the name of the horse? It was in Aussie Kier Silks, wasn't it?
It was either Sunsets or... it was Sunsets that knocked him off.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and Sunsets went on to run 3rd in the Derby. I've looked it up this morning. So he went on to run 3rd in the Derby, didn't back up in the Vars, but Apulia, who ran 4th in that Caulfield Classic, went on to the Vars the next week and won that, and then ran 2nd in the Derby. So I'd say you might see Keeneland or what was the Kumani horse's name? Who won?
Oh, King of Wall Street.
Yeah.
The Dundee horse, yeah.
Yeah, so him, China Sea for Johnny Sargent, and honestly, potentially scary as well. I could see them going back to back to back into a Derby.
That scary just... He needs a truly run race.
Yeah.
And I think he needs a truly run race over 2,500 metres in a Derby. So, and you said that to me after the race, you're like, look, Your ticket for 20s might be kaput, but you could probably get 30s on the day.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him go to a Vase and run well there because, you know, he could... I'm not riding him off as my Derby horse because this race was just an absolute farce.
Oh, it's a non-event.
Yeah.
So I think the Vase this year is going to be the main form reference for me because I thought Keeneland ran pretty well. I think he's proven at Flemington as well, which, and I can't remember if I said it on the podcast or to you separately, but there's the Caulfield Classic is not a great lead up
Historically
in recent times for the Victoria Derby in terms of the horses that win this race.
Yeah, and for me, you know, the Derby's one of those races where I just don't think you can really make your decision until week of because the form doesn't become clear until week of. Like you got the Spring Champion as well running in Sydney on Cox Plate Day, and quite often we see horses come from that race to the Derby. You know, Sharp and Smart nearly won the Derby after winning the Spring Champions a couple of years ago. Ace High, good to see those silks yesterday. He did that. So, and there's a couple of Smarties in the Spring Champions. I think
I'd say
Smarties compared to this lot.
I'd say the Victoria Derby. The three main form references that I like are the Superimpose, which is what Keeneland won at Flemington. I think getting that Flemington experience is really nice. The Vase has been proven on the week back up, and similar to the Spring Champion in Sydney. So. They're the three that I will be looking at towards a Derby. So yeah, and in the Phillies edition, like Too Darn Discreet, we kind of penned her given her tough lead up run, but she was good. Hurry Curry just probably needs further. Inevitable Truth similar. So bit of a again non-event for me. I think the issue is and I'm thinking selfishly about Derby Day. It's like we're going to see a lot of these horses again in a wakeful on Derby Day. So I'm like, damn. It's not that much clearer to me.
No. Too Darn Discreet. Like if we're getting another soft deck on Derby Day, she'd be the obvious, wouldn't she? Because she's handled it twice. And sometimes just these horses who are running on rain affected ground, they can just stay in a rich vein of form if they keep finding it. The issue becomes when they jump off it and go on to a dry deck, and we've seen Flemington be bone dry. So yeah, you're right. Like I'm not having any thoughts on that race until I need to on Derby Day because you need to. That's the victim's biggest day.
Yeah. Now, in the stewards report, there was a few out of here, right? So Sugarcoat had a throat condition, so needs a vet's clearance from race 1. Red Ace has got fractures in the barriers, and I think they scratched him at the gates, right? Gundrops had a EIPH. Isthmus, lame. She ran 4th, so I think she can. There's a sprint down the Flemington Straight for her on Derby Day. Isthmus, just like her mummy. So yeah, I think there was obviously some excuses there. So Lofty Arch won the second race over 1,200 metres, just led. He was smart, beat home the likes of Reserve Bank and co. I think these are the C-grade colts and geldings. I think my guy Traffic Warden will run him into the ground in the Cornwall.
Oh, I hope he gets there.
Yeah. Estrella was a nice win.
She was good, yeah.
Needed to see it.
Yeah, needed to see it. Geez, just to prove that she's a 1,000-metre horse, isn't she? Yeah, she'll be good for her because she hasn't won at Group 1 yet. So you know you could still probably find a way for her into like an Oakley plate or something like that. Lightly weighted, 1,100 metres, probably the tippy top of the distance that you want her running over. No, she was good. Like I've got nothing against Estrella.
Yeah. So I think you will probably see Estrella versus Isthmus and the likes of Sandoot on Derby Day in the Furphy sprint, I'd say. And I think there's another sprint race there which I could be suckered into Spacewalk again.
He's a funny horse.
I think he was only beaten a length, same weight as Estriella. He loomed up to win, gave out late. I have a feeling he might have been first up. And I think he does race his best down Flemington as well. So we'll see for him. Lady in Pink was chucked in our quaddie and won at $17. Like a big penis play, but if anyone was going to do it. She was good. Revolutionary Miss just puts in every start, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. Lady in Pink was coming out of that Kingston Town Stakes, which has proved to be, the same sort of fillies. Just keep chopping and changing a little bit. But yeah, Revolutionary Miss is probably the most consistent, but Miss Aria's got a win on her, definitely. Skybirds, I'm still convinced she's got a good win on her, but I don't know. She's a little bit hard to catch for me. Like I said to you yesterday, and I think I said on the podcast on Wednesday, I wish these fillies would just split up so I could back each of them differently.
Well, they will, because I was texting you during the week. I forget the name of the race. Let me get it up. I think it's called the Vanity. So for those... It's raining outside. Those drifters that remember, the Vanity was actually run in I think it was about April this year at Flemington. 1,400 metre race for the 3-year-old fillies. Gringsinger Bell won that race. She went out and led. Now, that race is on Derby Day again this year. So they've kicked out the Archer and they obviously need something to bring it back in. They're bringing that race into the card. Now, my problem with that is that you then have 3 races for the fillies and mares over very similar distances. So you have the sprinting mares, fillies and mares in the Furphy Sprint over 1,100. Then you have the 1,400 metre contest for the 3-year-old fillies in the Vanity. And then you have the Empire Rose, which is already thin because they're going to the Golden Eagle. It's just going to... You're just diluting it. It's just Derby Day is losing all its polish. All of it.
It is, yeah. It's ludicrous. I don't know who some of these people are who come up with, not the pattern, but just come up with these race programs and think that it's a good idea. Like,
is Champions Day the best thing for the Flemington Carnival? I don't really know it is.
I don't know if I like Champions Day because it just, for me, it's a bit of an afterthought stench. Like, the main event for sprinters in the spring is the Everest. So the Champions Sprint is a bit of an afterthought. The main 2,000 metre race is the Cox Plate. This thing's a week later, the Champions Stakes, and then the Champions Mile. Well, we've just had the King Charles. We've had the Epsom. There's the Golden Eagle, which isn't a mile race, but you know what I mean. Like, it's a bit of an afterthought stench for me, and Flemington needs its time in the sun, absolutely, but that's Derby Day. Yeah, I don't know.
I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Don't know.
All right, that's Caulfield done and dusted. Now, there is a ton for us to unpack in Sydney. So, Bella, she conquers the Everest. She was the class horse in the race and just got the job done. Now, good question by Nicholas Scala, loyal listener of the show. Why doesn't Craig get as much credit for his ride on Bella Nipotina as Blake did on Antino?
Because visually, Antino's was a lot more obvious, I'd say. But that was... I think the thing about the ride that Craig had on Bella was the nads needed to do it just to be comfortable to sit her 3 or 4 wide the trip and just know that she was a tough enough horse that if she was close enough, she'd get there. She was phenomenal. No other way to describe it. She's a mare. She's a 7-year-old Pride of Jenni mare who has now had 55 starts and has $16.8 million in prize money. Before the Everest victory, a few mates at work and I at work were calculating, okay, across her 50-odd starts, what's the average prize money as an owner you're collecting every time she goes around? Something like $250,000. Every single time she goes to the track, on average, that's how much you're making. Is that not just if you could dream up the perfect horse? She's been going around since she was, I think she raced as a 2-year-old.
Yep.
She's been going around for 5 years. She now has, 4 Group 1s. And even me, a year ago, I was saying like, gee, she can run on a bit because she only had like 3 or 4 wins from like 40-something starts.
Yeah.
Kieran Maher, just how he can just keep these horses up and going and performing. I don't know how he does it. And she's phenomenal. And she's so well deserved. And Craig deserves it because he cops so much slack. But he's got an absolute ripper in him.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes he'll butcher something. He will. And like he'll butcher something that doesn't get called out. The ones that get called out all the time are ones where it's like, well, what do you want him to do?
Like the lead up.
Yeah.
Like honestly, and we had people in our DMs going like, Craig butchered that. I'm like, hang on a second.
He was in the coffin, bro.
Put yourself in his shoes. There was literally nowhere for him to go. And, bruh, it's not the grand final. Like, he's not going to he's learned his lesson from Giga Kick.
He has.
And
we'll talk about him.
How good was it to see him back?
It was so good. I was nowhere near in this race. I said on the podcast something along the lines of the Premier Stakes, the lead-up race with Bella Nips and Giga Kick was poo-poo form and therefore wanted to completely disregard it for this race. And they've run the bloody Quinella. Giga Kick and Bella Nipotina. But for me, out of that race, that's what made me happiest.
Yeah.
Because if he's third up, still a little bit fat, to be honest, when I saw him in the mounting yard, and he's nearly winning an Everest, clearly nowhere near the peak of his powers. He's still a 5-year-old. He's lightly raised Giga Kick. And we said this to each other. Bro might be looking for 1,400 metres.
Yeah, and I think he's there's always one that comes around that's their pet distance. Tafane comes to mind. Where at 1,400, they're just cherry ripe perfect. I think he's that perfect mould of 1,400 metres.
He sure is. Interesting, this race with the drifters. I said to you before it ran, who do you think's the most backed in the Everest? And you're like, oh, Bella Nips. No, it was Sunshine in Paris.
Unbelievable.
Sunshine in Paris had 20%. And like this, every single horse was backed in the race by the drifters, at least by 2 people, aside from Lady of Camelot. Didn't have anyone. But Sunshine in Paris, clearly most backed, followed by Steffi Magnetica, and then Traffic Warden. Only 11 drifters were with Bella Nipotina.
Oh, yeah, right. Well found.
Well found. Not many had Giga Kick.
Now, there might be some people who are going like, what the hell happened to Traffic Warden? Here you go. Basically, Traffic Warden tried to play a video from James Cummings. He was not playing for us that nicely. But essentially, he was ready to go and he was loaded into the barriers early and he was a bit fractious. And who drew to his inside? I think
he drew gate 2.
It might have been I Am Me or
I Am Me drew gate 1.
And Jolly Star to his inside and he got a bit excited.
Did he?
And he tried to basically...
Oh, did he?
Mount, and then he sat down in the barriers. And I think there's some superficial wounds to one of his fetlocks. So rightfully scratched. But it doesn't calm my frustration. Because there was a question here from As Burden. How many lengths would Traffic Warden have won by? Now, if he's doing that right at the beginning, I think it's fair to say that he's pretty wound up. I think he would have run a super race. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think he almost gets the run of the race, and I think he was ready to explode. I think he's the first 3-year-old home, so I think he runs at least 3rd.
Impossible to know. Impossible to know. But I said on the podcast, and usually what I say on the podcast comes true. And I said he was ready to explode. But gee, Growing Empire's a good little horse, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a tough little horse.
Yep.
But I think the pecking order is becoming clearer for me. And I do think Traffic Warden's the number 1 sprinting colt that we have. Growing Empire is knocking on the door. And he has experience down the Flemington Straight. Will he be going there? I'm not sure. The Coolmore post this, but I think he should.
That's a lot. That's a big prep.
It's a big prep.
Yeah,
but I think he should go there. Lady of Camelot's not out of the race if she goes to the Coolmore. She was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think she surprised a lot of people.
Absolutely,
she was
did.
great.
I was on Jolly Star, just never looked in it, and she came home to only look. She ran 7th, but just as soon as she got taken that far back in a race which didn't have enormous amounts of speed up front, she was never going to win. But do you know what concerns me about this race? And I'm sure you've got the numbers. So Steffi Magnetica ran 9th. So there was 2.3 lengths that separated 1st to 9th. If you take Oisha Win out of the field, who ran last, weird.
Lame.
He's lame. Okay, well,
1 out of 5. You know what? I'll let you finish your point in a sec. But you know what I cannot stand about horse racing sometimes is the arrogance of some jockeys. So Nolan just walked straight past when they were interviewing the jockeys. I'm like, bro, half of the fucking country is on this horse.
Yeah.
Give him some insight.
Yeah.
Cannot cop that.
No, that's not good enough. From, what's his nickname? Luke Nolan? Anyway. Yeah, take him out of the race and you got 3.3 lengths separating 1st to 10th. We knew it was an even field, but what does that mean from like a ratings perspective? It's probably going to rate lower than your typical Everest, I'd say, but ultimately, does it matter?
Yeah, maybe. Like on raw times, Overpass would have beaten the Everest by about 1.5 lengths, and then the Kosciuszko by 2.5. So it's like of the 3 marquee sprint races on the day, they were pretty close. So it's like much of muchness. Because if Overpass is in the Everest, he probably leads the field. But, you know, does Bella potentially win by more? Does Giga Kick win by more? I don't know. Like, you know, it's really hard to say.
It is hard to say.
Actually, it's impossible to say. So, yeah, I think it just goes to show that, like, Chain of Lightning won the TJ, you know? And she's off to the breeding barn now. So it's like, I think our sprinting ranks are incredibly even. So
There's no superstar.
no. And it's like, I think the changing of the guard, I think it's imminent. I think it's really, really close. So now there was a question here about from Lewis White. Did Jolly Star prove she's not a sprinter? Is she a miler? So she's run home last 600 in 33.49. So I think that was raced second fastest behind Giga Kick. Last 600. So she's absolutely flown home. She only really got going in the last 400, but that last furlong was breathtaking. Can't believe how close she finished. And to be fair, it was actually after the post where she really gained ground. So probably a fair assessment. I think a Golden Eagle's well within her grasp.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Different. All right. So say she goes towards a Golden Eagle. She starts around that $4 favourite, which Hawaii 5-0 did last year. She is a far better betting proposition than him.
Chalk and cheese.
Like there's $4 pops and then there's $4 pops.
Chalk and cheese. In retrospect, the writing was on the wall with her after her second up run because clearly she's not a 1,200 metre horse. But fresh up, you know that she's going to run a bomb for her next preps. But she could be another one who's like a 1,400 metre horse.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think the other thing, right, is her first up run, just looking into it a bit further, right? Our Kobe son, Fearson, Democracy Manifest. She did beat Southport Tycoon. Airman, NCAP, Griff, much, much better. Ducasse, Old Flame, Bandy's Boy. So there's some sort of subsequent winners there. Not at the top echelon. So, like, Airman stole one. Southport Tycoon was sensational in the Manicato. But he was also, $19? And he ran well yesterday. Mm-hmm. But he's probably looking for the Golden Eagle trip as well. So, yeah. I think, they're always learning. There's visually impressive, and then it's like, all right, what's the actual, the quality of the field that they're versing?
Yeah, let's hold our horses a little bit.
And you know what I do that for more so is the trials. So if I see something go out and win by 6 lengths, I'm like, okay, but are there any fast horses in that race? Like, it can hold up in trials as well. Because you typically see the likes of Sunshine and Paris and Co. And Fangirl's a great example. Dross trialer. But she's going up against Group 1 horses anyway.
Yeah.
Who are running far faster and have probably more intent. So, yeah. But yeah, it's a good point about the closeness of the race. Me, second last. Who would have thought? Now, we talked about the win of Overpass. Now, there was a shudder in the pub. Everyone was just, frankly, in a really disappointed mood when we saw Think About It go down. But thankfully, from what I've seen and heard, the horse is okay, which is unbelievable. But Joe Pride after the race said he's probably run his last race, which is so, as a fan of the game, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, if he had an internal bleed, like a significant internal bleed, the fact that Bro got up and walked off the track, what an absolute warrior. Think about it. It was deflating, that's for sure, when it happened. But I'm so stoked that he's still there. And no, we'll never see him at the track again. But guess what?
He'll lead out the Everest field next year.
Yeah, and he owes that racing community absolutely nothing. And as Queenslanders, once again, holding up the Queensland form. Bella Nipotina, once again, holding up the Queensland form. Happens every year. Drifters, show us the respect we deserve.
Now, this is all, if anything's happened, I don't think that it has, but yeah, think about it. At the time of recording, everything's fine with the horse.
Yep.
Must say that.
Yeah, I don't think he's completely out of the woods because, there could be infections and other things go wrong, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. So, yeah. He's definitely we've been a fan of his at one stage or another on this podcast, and I've never seen a bigger lunatic in the mounting yard than this thing.
Not at all. He's not much to look at. Think about it. Doesn't look anything like his daddy. Going back to Overpass, should have been the Everest.
Yeah. You could definitely argue that, and I was big on him earning his spot in the Everest, and I think he would have been very competitive.
Well, look at his record now. For 27 starts, 9 wins. And you've got to remember, for the first 10 to 15 races of his career, he was a colt and was very coltish. But since the gelding, keep him fresh, he's a bomb. He's got nearly $9 million worth of prize money Overpass. Obviously, there's 2 quackers in there, but the thing is, if Bjorn wants to take him back over to WA for the Winterbottom this year, who beats him?
Yeah, 8 weeks away.
Who beats him?
I don't know.
So
bustling. What other? There's probably a Western Empire and different silks.
Bustling. Jeez. So no, he's a worthy winner. If you look at his record in his last 10 starts, phenomenal.
Little King of Sparta ran well.
The King did run well.
He just got beaten by the barrier, I feel, but I think he'll go up against Coal Crusher again in the Hunter. 1,300 metres, but that's cherry right for him. Southport Tycoon heading towards a Golden Eagle. Lady Laguna was super from an impossible position as well. And yeah, Arkansas Kid beaten 6 lengths. I don't think he would have measured up in an Everest.
I don't think so.
Now, have you seen all the hullabaloo raised by Tony Otterbury?
Yeah. I actually have seen that with Mighty Beale, Major Beale, my apologies, being the definition of a fly in the ointment for Pride of Jenni.
In the steward's report, Pride of Jenni, Mr. Tony Otterbury, managing part owner of Pride of Jenni, voiced concern to the stewards regarding the tactics adopted on Major Beale in the early stages of the race and whether those tactics were designed to particularly impede the chances of Pride of Jenni. In the presence of Mr. Otterbury, stewards interviewed Mr. Adam Hippopotamus, Major Beale, and Declan Bates, Pride of Jenni. Hippo advised that his instructions were to ride Major Beale positively as it generally leads in its races and anticipating that Pride of Jenni would lead to trail that horse. These instructions were confirmed by co-trainer Mr. Adrian Bott. Hippo stated that Major Bill began particularly well, and he rode that horse positively and was surprised that Pride of Jenni had not begun as well as he expected. He said that his decision to remain racing wider was to allow all runners to take their positions and then gradually roll across to clear the main body of the field, with the anticipation that Pride of Jenni would then press forward of him and lead the race. The anticipation that Pride of Jenni would then... Oh, I've already read that. So I think that statement's kind of fair, but we said it when we were watching it. It's like, gee, they're really making sure they're getting past that cluster closer to the rail. I think it was cheeky.
Yeah, it was cheeky from both.
But the stewards were like, play on, nothing to see here.
Which I think's good.
Yeah.
Because, clearly Hippo's like, well, I just don't want her to lead and make it super easy. And did he give his horse the best possible chance to win the race? Absolutely not.
No.
But look, all things considered, Pride of Jenni's run super.
Mate.
In that. She's gone super.
These Pride of Dubai's are just...
They're just iron horses, mate.
Yeah. And they just get better with age.
They do.
So she was beaten 0.8 of a length.
Yeah.
By a horse that could be anything. Ceolwulf.
Oh, God.
Joe has a smart one here.
Joel Probe. He's got a good one. And look, I felt for him. Obviously, we think about it, and we give him a little bit of a hard time on this podcast. Like, I'm sure he cares. I'm sure he notices.
He's literally, he would. I don't think there'd be anyone in horse racing that would care less. He'd literally water off.
One thing you can say about Joe is that he walks to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah, he has a bit of a funny walk though, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Really long torso, tiny little legs.
He does, yeah. Prominent widow's peak. Bro's got the Nike tick on his forehead. He's got the Avatar arrow. Aang the Airbender. Unbelievable. Like, it's just so... I can't help but look. It's all I look at when he's on TV.
Oh, God damn, he's receding. Oh, no, he's not.
No, he's not receding at all. He's not receding at all. It's just so weird. But Ceolwulf, wow. He sitting off a hot speed, to show that stamina to sit close enough and just the bang last 400 meters. Like, I'm going to put this race to bed. We saw, and you saw early days. This horse had some talent as a 3-year-old. Running in the Derby, still had his nuts, and clearly was a good horse. See you later, nuts. Better race horse. Typically, that's what happens.
Oh, it's the spring of geldings.
It is. The Tug C.
Yeah. Duke De Sessa, Buckaroo, and this thing, Ceolwulf. Love to see it, because this is what we need.
We need more geldings.
Middle distant geldings.
We need tough geldings.
Because Queen Elizabeth next year, Duke De Sessa, sure, if it's a Sydney Autumn, heavy 10, he'll be up to that race in his eyeballs.
Buckaroo,
and now Ceolwulf. Like, and Pride of Jenni leading the field. Hello. Yeah, now we're talking.
We are talking. And so he's 14 career starts, and if you look back through his form, bro, it didn't start clicking until the autumn for this guy in that Derby. So there's probably 6 or 7 races where you're just like, don't worry about it, bruh. And his record's super. Like, I know we can get carried away, but he's just proven to us twice that he can sit off a pretty hot speed and just go bang. And that's reserved for very few horses.
I think Randwick is a perfect track for him.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Like, because the Randwick Mile, you typically need a pretty smart 2,000 metre horse to really smoke the line, or something that can run like 1,800, I feel.
Yep.
Especially if Pride Jenni's in the field. Jesus Christ. But yeah, he's proven he's nearly knocked off the Derby King and Reef Rocket.
Yeah.
In the autumn when he didn't have it all together.
No.
And Joe's saying that this thing's possibly, and if you interviewed him today, he probably would say it's the best middle distance horse he's ever trained.
Yep. And Joe Pride was like, he'd say, look, if I did race him again, it'd be in a Cox Plate. I think there's a bit of trepidation there though, because the horse owes him nothing this prep. Like he's been up for a while now, so you just, I reckon, honestly, I would love to see him in a Cox Plate because we're going to be there. But I think the best thing for this horse long term is to spell him, aim him at a Queen Elizabeth, and then take him to a Cox Plate. Tavistock 5-year-old.
Josh Bell, loyal listener of the show and former colleague, he said Pride is sending Ceolwulf to the paddock. Should they strike while the iron is hot and head to a Cox Plate? You've said your thoughts. I echo them. I would love to see him in the field, but he's just won an Epsom at 1.5 million and a King Charles at 5 million. Literally owes you nothing.
He's got nearly $5 million worth of prize money in the bank with a stack of racing to come.
And as there's a article on racing.com this morning, Pride, I can wait a year for a Cox Plate.
That's him though.
That is him. And you need personalities like Joe Pride. He can rub us the wrong way, but it's more so the placement of his horses. This one you can't really fuck up.
No, you can't. This is a Cox Plate horse.
Like,
do you know what else he is? I think he could be a Tancred horse in the autumn.
Oh, maybe, but let's just calm down.
He could be.
Yeah.
Well, if he's doing that with Riff Rocket and a Derby, like there's no reason. And if Calipor's winning a Tancred, you know what I mean? There's no reason why this guy can't do that and then come back to the Queen Elizabeth and have that sort of prep.
Well, I think he might have ran in the Queen Elizabeth this year.
He did.
On the quick backup.
He did.
I think he ran like second last or something.
But
too much. And there's an argument there. Runs on the board. He didn't handle it back up once. So why would you try again when the long term there's so much upside for this
True.
thing?
But also, like, I think the fact that Joe Pryor was prepared to back him up in a Queen Elizabeth, he at that stage probably thought this guy's a serious talent, and it's come to the fore already. And I think there's still more to come for him. And you love to see it because we need like 4 or 5 really good middle distance geldings constantly to battle it out in our Group 1s. We had it a few years ago. We sort of lost it a bit because you're always going to get mares. You're always going to get mares coming through and smarties. The colts are a flash in the pan, but you need these geldings who can run for 3 years just battling it out in our middle distance ranks. We got a couple now, which is good.
Have we seen the best of Fangirl?
Yes. Well, I think we might have. Because I think the best of Fangirl was this race last year. And yeah, she's won since then.
As a 5-year-old mare.
As a 5-year-old mare, yeah. And she's won since then, but she's winning when she's can sprint home in her crazy sectionals that she has. When it's a truly run mile race.
J-Mac said it after the race. He's like, her wheels were spinning. She just was uncomfortable with that pressure put up front. So I think if she runs into Pride of Jenni each time, sure, she might win a 7 stakes where there's 0 tempo in the race. But on grand final day, I think she's just not a betting proposition anymore.
Yeah, no. Drifters certainly thought she was. She was the most backed horse, 36%. Pride of Jenni had 33%, so effectively the same. Not many found Ceolwulf. There was 6 who had Ceolwulf. But yeah, interesting.
He started 650, Ceolwulf, so there was enough support there.
Absolutely, there was. Fangirl for me, and again, like I know I was wrong last time when she won the 7 stakes, but she hasn't been a betting proposition for me for a long time. Like I think the last time I actually backed her was maybe
the Winx
Stakes last year. Because she's got such a negative racing pattern for me, and so many Waller horses do, and it's like, well, you're just not going to win more races than you lose with that racing pattern, unfortunately. My guy Celestial, what do we do with him?
Oh yeah, I honestly forgot that horse was even in the field.
He was ahead of. He was like 4th or 5th in the running, and he was fading late. Bro needs to go to the breeding barn. I think he's not interested anymore. He had the blinkers on. He had Blake on. Blake and blinkers. That's a double whammy.
Yeah,
I think he needs to go. I think he needs to go to the breeding barn.
There's a race for Maya Oberon.
I don't know what it is, but there it is.
I reckon Champions Mile, Champions Stakes. I could see him running really well there.
Amelia's Jewel. I think she can win a Group 1 against the fillies and mares.
If she head to an Empire Rose, should be. But I think that was a solid performance. But I remember in my memory hearing, who was the old trainer?
Simon Miller.
On that, was it Toorak Day last year? She got a bit spooked by the crowd. I don't think big crowds are a jam, but I think that was a pass mark yesterday. Like she beat home, Fangirl.
I'd like to see her over 2,000 metres, Amelia's Jewel. Her best performance, aside from running down Pride of Jenni in the Fan, which I don't think she's been the same horse since that because that was a gut buster, was over 1,800 metres as a 3-year-old filly in a northerly. So I want to see her out to 2,000 metres. I don't know when.
I think it's a 5 Diamonds then. I think that's where she heads.
Yeah.
1,800 metres.
She can win that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if that's her, that's her. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's just she's not the horse that we thought. Tom Kitten ran well.
Kitty Cat Tom.
I think 2,000 metres for him.
He's a 4-year-old gelding. Yeah, I think he's one who...
He's going to go to a Golden Eagle.
Yeah, he is. Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
That's the thing. Is like that race is kind of wrecking the rest of these races.
Bit toxic.
Like it's going to... Every year it's a fantastic event, right?
And we love the race.
I think it's great, but I also want the other races to be as top quality as they can be. So, yeah. All right. What else did we have here? Now, on raw figures, right? So, there was a few different there was 3 different 1,600 metre races on the day. So, Lekvart, who won the...
It's a stupid name for a horse.
Another Joe Pride trained mare. So she absolutely spanked him, and she opened at $4, got out to 9s. And I think it was because they were anticipating heavy ground, and she's a grey that doesn't appreciate the wet. Soft 5 was perfect for her, but Ceolwulf would have beaten her by about 7.5 lengths. So, but Ducass, who won the Big Dance wildcard, he only would have lost by about 3 lengths. So I think Ducass has run pretty well. Like he would have beat home Fangirl on Royal Times.
That's funny.
So maybe Ducass just needs a genuine tempo.
Yeah. Geez, Vivier would have been a nice result for your boy, but
not to be.
Didn't back a single winner yesterday.
Ostraka?
Ostraka. I was out of cash.
Yeah, true.
I was out of cash, mate.
I jumped on Aliana. That was nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
J-Mac, Peach.
Peachy from J-Mac. Still on 99, not out.
Part of me is hoping that he's on there for a long time. Just sweats a little bit because he can sook it up, J-Mac.
Oh, yeah, they all can, mate.
Yeah.
Or not all of them, most of them
Blake
can.
doesn't.
Blake doesn't.
He
no.
gets on with the job, mate.
He
like
does.
that's why
He's professional.
Him and Mark.
I love Mark. We still need to come up with a nickname for
We'll
him.
find it.
It's got to be organic, though.
Yeah, we can't force it.
No.
Like, Blake has big balls on him.
Blakey Bill.
Blake, he's just... I think he puts his hand up when he butchers him, and he also goes like, yeah, I gave that thing a really good ride. I love that. Craig just overthinks things.
He does.
He does. Like,
He does.
but in that race yesterday, right? Kieran said to him before the race, was like, mate, let's just trust the horse. Let's ride her positively. And Craig's like, I agree. And then he did. 3 wide, no cover. Bang. Gets another 7 mil into the kitty. Mm-hmm. What do you reckon? 5 or 10%? 5 or 10% for the jocks.
5%, I think.
So another 350k into... So he could get another set of veneers if he wanted to.
He sure could. No amount of veneers will fix that face.
No. Maybe you'll get some Botox. All right. So next week, we have a Cox Plate. Now, prognosis. I can't wait to see this thing.
I reckon he's going to be a nutter. I can't wait to see him.
$4. Via Sistina, $4.20. Pride of Jenni, 6s. She'll be rock hard fit. She'll be a bunny that they need to chase. Broadsiding at 7s. Mr. Brightside at 10s. Ceolwulf at 12s. Unlikely. Docklands at 13s. He was 21s a week ago, and I think Blake said, yeah, he's a good horse. You want to be running in a Cox Plate. Buckaroo 17's unlikely. A Tissue, Kovalika, Royal Patronage at 26s. Elias Fangirl at 34s. It's a pretty long tail. Like outside the top 5 or 6.
I'll let you in on a little secret, drifters. I am all over broadsiding like a rush. You don't even need to wait until Wednesday. That's where my money's going. Cannot wait to see him.
It would be disingenuous of me not to back this Japanese thing.
Has he got any form on wet decks?
Unsure, but need to kind of do the forecast.
Well, I'm just spitballing a little bit. Let's have a look.
Melbourne weather
Oh, I reckon it'll be fine looking at that.
forecast.
I reckon we'll be playing on a good fall looking at that.
Unless it's like 50 mil on the Wednesday, which is not a 0 to 7. They need to irrigate it anyway, which they did for fucking Caulfield.
It doesn't make any sense.
So, yeah, they've got top of 19 today, no rain. Top of 25, no rain. Top of 30 on Tuesday. That's nice Japanese style of weather. Top of 19 with up to 7. Top of 16 with top of 4. Top of 15 on Friday.
It'll be cool there on Friday night again.
Yeah, and it'll be 17 degrees on track on Saturday. Probably feel like 10 if there's a bit of wind around. 15 to 20k an hour. So bring your scarves.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
No, looking forward to that. Flying down for the weekend, drifters. It's the minimum we deserve. Thanks again to the good people at Neds.
Yes. Well said. Spring Champion, same day as well. Swift Falcon $3. El Costello $4.50. Harlem Queen and Henline at 5s. Pleasure Artist and Tunberry Wells, not Turnberry, at 13s.
Turnberry.
Rag Queen at 15s. Just Party and Pope Cody at 17s. Gonna have to do some more form on this race.
Absolutely. Wouldn't say it's a vintage edition of the Spring Champions.
Is it ever?
But it rarely is a vintage edition of the race.
We had Kitty Cat Tom. We had Profondo.
Sharp and Smart.
Yep.
Where's he now?
Well, in NZ. Let's have a quick look forward to Derby Day as well. So, the Victoria Derby, broadsiding is your $6 favourite with Henline at 8s, Red Aces at 9s, Swift Falcon at 9s, El Costello at 10s, Keeneland at 10s, King of Wall Street at 11s, Plymouth at 11s, Politely Done is the one I'm interested in at 11s. China Sea at 15s with Lavalier. Now, that is that Godolphin horse. I'm very interested in the Derby as well. I'm hoping that he's heading towards the Vars. But, yeah, there's obviously a lot of room to move there. Now, the Coolmore will be a fascinating market. Traffic Warden, $3 favourite. If you're taking that, you're an absolute sicko. Growing Empire 360, doubtful. Switzerland at 5s. Stormboy at 8s. First Settler at 9s. Bellatrix Star at 11s. We were tipping her out at 15s last week. Coleman 11s. Hayasugi at 12s. Don't know about that. Angel Capital, Lady of Camelot, Emirate at 15s.
Is Private Life in that market?
Private Life 21s.
Because Chris Waller was saying that he'd want to take him back from that Guineas to run over 1,200 metres. Not that I'm interested in him, but just we'll add another horse into the race.
I have a rule with this race.
No Guineas.
No Guineas form.
No Guineas. No Guineas. Anyway, yeah, interesting, the Coolmore stud. I think I'm probably leaning... See if Traffic Warden turns up, obviously. But I think Switzerland could be the one. I think he could be the one.
Yeah. Well, it was very impressive, I wonder how Coolmore would be feeling today.
Does Switzerland run better than Stormboy in that race yesterday? I think so.
Maybe.
I think so.
Stormboy was also leading that field.
I've got question marks out of the Everest, that's for sure. But at the same time, it's not like there's anyone else that they're going to be racing against.
Yeah.
In sprinting races moving forward. You can question the quality of the race, but at the same time, they're literally our best sprinters. So, Anyway.
Empire Rose, Orchestral at 450, a Tissue at 5s, Amelia's Jewel at 6s, Alsafina at 9s, Plenty of Ammo, Pride of Jenni at 11s, Fangirl 12s, Zugotcha at 13s, Lekfart, Macarena at 15s.
I think a Tissue is probably the play there.
Yeah. Any news on Zooey? Is she going to the Empire Rose?
No, she'll be in the invitation next week. 1400 metre race at Randwick. I doubt she would be going to the Empire Rose on the quick backup.
Golden Eagle. Now, I think last week we were talking about Ceolwulf where he wasn't even in the market. He's $4 equal favourite now. I'm probably unlikely to head there. Ascoli Piceno need to do more form on this horse. $4 favourite. Jolly Star at 5s. Lazard at 6s. Need to do more form on that horse. Southport Tycoon at 11s. Steffi at 13s. Celestial Legend at 15s is awfully short. NCAP Ostraka Macarena at 17s. Tommy Kitten V8. Corazon Beat at 26s. Craig at 26s.
Geez, we've got some thin racing at the moment.
Kai Mochi at 26s. That I could be interested in. Her and NCAP are very similar.
Yeah, they're Gary Portelli horses, mate.
Yeah, they are too.
Mix F4.
But they run top 4. They run pretty well. Interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's got some thin racing at the moment in Australia. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Most of the time, because these horses can't be two places at once, can they?
Yeah. Won't burst my bubble. Still going to have a fantastic Derby Day and Cox Plate.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. We're really on the countdown now. So we're going to talk you through our next couple of weeks, right? So we head down to Melbourne on Friday for the Friday night meeting at Moonee Valley. Then we back up for Moonee Valley on the Saturday. We fly back early, wide-eyed, bushy-tailored to do a podcast here for you guys. And then the following week, we're going down the coast for an old-fashioned pub crawl for Derby Day. Around the ground sort of stuff.
It's what dreams are made of.
And what your typical steak might be, you could times that by a certain amount.
You've got to come to play on Derby Day. And then, before you know it, it's Melbourne Cup and the last day of the tipping comp, the Champions Day. So, results will be finalised today and you'll see something on our socials probably tomorrow or the day after for the tipping comp drifters. So, it's an awfully close competition.
It is.
Fascinating.
So fascinating. All right. We'll see you Wednesday. If you're having a bet, do it with Neds. Do it responsibly.
Ditto.